Well, we're about to welcome in 2020. Can you believe it?
No.
I thought by now we would have our flying cars. I thought by now we would be taking vacations to the moon. The Jetsons is not happening for us. If y'all remember that cartoon. You know, it hit me the other day. Listening to probably Sports Talk Radio. That's my normal listen to when I drive. And someone brought up that it's been 20 years since Y2K. Y'all remember Y2K? We had no idea what was going to happen. And just to play games with my family's head, I went to Dallas and went to the Cotton Bowl because Arkansas played Oklahoma that New Year's Day morning. Texas in the Cotton Bowl that morning. And so, we didn't know what was going to happen. We thought the banks were going to shut down. We wouldn't be able to get money. People that are preppers were really geared up, right? You had food and water and everything stashed. We had no idea what was going to happen. For those of y'all that, I know a lot of our crowd wasn't alive then. The big fear was the computers only had 2 numbers for the date. And so when it went back to 00, that was going to make all the computers crash. Well, thankfully, nothing happened. We went right on. The Hogs beat Texas. And everything was good. Well, hopefully you had a great Christmas this week. And maybe those of y'all that were here last week, we talked about the thrill of hope. And that's why I wanted to talk about both these weeks, and I get a chance to fill in. And maybe, just maybe, you got something from it, and this week when you saw the manger scene, and you saw that baby, that like Simeon, you were reminded of the hope that we have in Christ and what Jesus represents as the hope for our lives. Well, this week I want to talk about future hope. If you read much of Paul's writings, he emphasizes this a ton. He talks about our future hope. He talks about the future that we have waiting for us, and how we're to look through eternal eyes and not through the eyes of this world. And so that's what I want us to focus on today. I want us to look at a passage from 2 Corinthians chapter 4, beginning in verse 13. Stephen read some of the lead up to this. This section kind of begins with we have these treasures in jars of clay passage. And this is a setting where, just to kind of lay out the context here, Paul is talking about struggles and facing struggles. Okay, and I don't want to just talk about that necessarily, although it's going to apply to that. But when we read this, we got to remember that the struggles that Paul is talking about that he faces in this passage is not the things that we would necessarily call struggles in our life. Okay? Not to say the struggles that we face aren't important. But Paul is talking about specifically the struggles of following Christ. You see, by this time, Paul is about 20 years in to this following Christ thing. He's been a Christian for probably, depending on the date this was written, but most scholars think that he had probably been a Christian for around 20 years or so by the time he's writing this second letter to the Corinth church. The Corinth church was a church that he helped start, and it meant a lot to him. The Corinth church also had a lot of issues, a lot of problems. And Paul is writing them, and in this section he's writing them about the struggles that he faces because he's willing to speak and share the love of Christ, the gospel of Christ in his world. Now, he's not talking about, when he talks about struggles here, he's not just talking about, that person at work is just getting on my last nerves. Oh, the struggles I have. Not that that may not be a big issue to you, but he's talking about specifically the struggles of following Christ. The struggles of living a life devoted to Christ. Look at verse 13. It says, since we have the same spirit of faith, according to what has been written, I believed and so I spoke. We also believe and so we also speak, knowing that he who raised the Lord Jesus will raise us also with Jesus and bring us with you into his presence. For it is all for your sake, so that as grace extends to more and more people, it may increase thanksgiving to the glory of God. So we do not lose heart. Though our outer self is wasting away, our inner self is being renewed day by day. For this light momentary affliction is preparing for us an eternal weight of glory beyond all comparison. As we look not to the things that are seen, but to the things that are unseen. For the things that are seen are transient, but the things that are unseen are eternal. Now I want to start off with what Paul in verse 13, we're kind of jumping into a section here. So when I say Paul starts off, he really started earlier, okay? So I'm just kind of saying that because that's the passage I felt led to start with. But when he says, since we have the same spirit of faith, he makes it clear who he's talking to here. And so I want to make it clear to you this morning. When I'm talking about the hope, the future hope that we can have, the future hope that we can have is only if we have a relationship with Jesus Christ. It is the future hope I'm talking about. If you are out here today and you do not have a relationship with Jesus Christ, there's never been a time in your life when you've given yourself over to him and said, God, I want to live my life for you the best way I know how. And we're going to talk about that more in a minute. But if you've done that, then the future hope I'm talking about is something that you already have. Now, if you've never done that, then what I'm talking about this morning when I say future hope, I'm talking about something that you can have. If you decide to give your life to Christ today. If he calls you today and says, now's the time for you to be saved. Now's the time for you to give your life to me. Then today you can have that hope. But the Bible's very clear that if you've never done that, if you're not a child of his, then you haven't received the hope that I'm talking about this morning. Now he starts off here, and here's what I want to do. I gave you your outline on the back, and we're going to get to that at the end. But since I did that, there's other things I thought of. So, on your bulletin, if you would, just write in these three words. Gospel, people, and world. Gospel, people, and world. And I think this passage speaks to an eternal viewing, an eternal vision of those three things in our lives. Now, so this is what I'd like us to do. I'd like us to put on our eternal glasses, and with those, we definitely see 2020. So,
Boo! Boo!
I'm not a father, so I still get to do some dad jokes, right? So, the youth, they just call them Travis jokes. Anyway, so with our eternal goggles, our eternal glasses, how do we see these three things? The first one is the gospel. The gospel. You see, I think most of us in here would say, yeah, I understand the gospel. And there's a lot of people in our world that would say, yeah, I understand the gospel. But when we look at the fruit, when we look at the real understanding of what the gospel is. I think there's sometimes we've gotten mixed up. I think sometimes we've gotten some things from our culture in our world and we've blended that in there with the gospel. And we've made it into this little ball of, okay, I want this part of Jesus and I like this sounds good too, and this quote sounds good, so let's throw this quote in there, and this sounds good, and so let's mix it all up, and that's the gospel. Well, let's be clear this morning about what the gospel is. Jesus Christ was God. He was also human. And He came to this earth, and we just celebrated that with Christmas. And He was born to a virgin named Mary. He did that because He had made a covenant with His people. And His people had broken that covenant. And there was sin in our world. And when I say there's sin in our world, there's individual sin. And then there's sin in the created world that is here. And Jesus came and lived a perfect life. And He went to the cross to tear down the wall between us and God. You see, in the Old Testament, they had the sacrificial system. But the book of Hebrews tells us that those sacrifices just covered up sin. They didn't wash it away. All the blood from all those sacrifices, they didn't wash away the sin. But Jesus came and He got rid of the sin. And he defeated sin by going to die on the cross as a perfect sacrifice. And then the Bible says He went into the grave for 3 days. And on the third day, He came out of that grave. And He's alive today. He defeated sin. He defeated death. And therefore, we can have hope. You see, Paul's talking about this here when he says, knowing that He who raised the Lord Jesus will raise us also. Because of that, we can go to God and we can commit our life to Him like I talked about earlier. And He will say, and if He calls us to Him, and we answer that call, then we can have a relationship with the God that created everything, the God that came to earth, lived on earth for 33 years, over 2,000 years ago, and it died and rose again, is alive today. We can have a personal relationship with Him. But here's what we've done with that personal relationship, and here's where it gets confusing sometimes. Because we get so excited about the fact that it is personal, and it is. That's so important that it is personal. God deals with all of us differently. We can go around here and we can listen to testimonies about how all of us in this room, if you're saved, how you got saved. And everybody was different. That's because God deals with each of us individually. But He didn't just die on the cross for Travis. He didn't just die on the cross for Jackie. He died on the cross for all mankind. And not only that, for all creation. Part of our hope is in the hope of a future, new heaven and new earth, where God takes all the sinful brokenness from this creation and these people and fixes it and makes it perfect. I feel like I'm in a Western. They would draw. Somebody starts marching off. That's the gospel. We've taken it and we've made it so individualistic that it's about us. It's not about us. It's about what Jesus has done for us. And here's the other reminder. We do not deserve it at all. And I'm afraid too many times people think in their mind that God owes us some sort of favor. And that's why it's like trying to get somebody to come to your birthday party so you can have more people at your party or something. That God's wanting us there just to make everybody happy. That's not why God did what He did. He did what He did because He's God. And He offers that salvation. And we are dirty sinners. Every last one of us. I don't care if you got saved when you were like me, when you were 7, or you got saved just last week. We're all sinners, separated from God, in need of a Savior. And here's the thing, God doesn't owe us a thing. We live in a society where people, I talked about this a little bit last week, but people want their ears tickled. We like to go and we like to hear preachers with good southern drawls tell us about you can live your best life now. About how easy life is when you follow Jesus. Remember how Paul's writing this letter. He's writing this letter to remind them the struggles of the Christian life are worth it. The struggles of following Jesus are worth it. Making different decisions than what the culture offers us. Living our lives separate, yet in the culture we live in, is worth it. The second thing we need to see through our goggles, eternal goggles, is people. It's people. See, this one's a real easy one because for us, a lot of times, because we see our family through eternal goggles, right? Parents, you see your kids through those eternal goggles real easily. That's the easy way for us to see people through eternal goggles because they mean something. And God's blessed us. God's blessed you with those people. And especially the parents to a child. God's blessed you with them. And it's easy for us. But the problem is Jesus didn't just see the people that were closest to Him through eternal goggles. Paul, as he's writing this letter, I don't know if you remember about the context of what's going on in 2 Corinthians, but Paul is not writing them just to say, hey, what's up? It's been a good year. Hope I heard things are going good for y'all. Enjoyed the Christmas card. It's not why he's writing this letter. The church at Corinth was messed up. They were making bad choices. They were making some dumb mistakes. And then he was supposed to get an offering for them for the church in Jerusalem, and they didn't do so good on that offering. And so he's writing them this letter, giving them some encouragement, giving them some theology and things like that, but he's also saying, look, let's straighten up. And in the midst of that, he says, for it is all for your sake. He's doing all this. All the stuff he's going through, the imprisonments, the beatings. He's doing it for the sake of these people. Of these people that mean something to him. Look, he spent some time with them. This wasn't family. This wasn't people he grew up with. These were people he met along the way as he was serving the Lord. But they mattered to him. They meant something to him. And he saw them through eternal eyes. Do we see people through eternal eyes? Look, this is a tough one. And I'm going to be real honest with you. It was tough for me this week. I helped out a young lady this year for Christmas. She had 2 little boys who wanted some help with some Christmas gifts. So, with some help from some other folks, we helped her out. Got her some stuff. And then this week, her brother comes in the office and tells me that, hey, yeah, she's taking all that stuff back to Walmart, getting gift cards and buying cigarettes. Now, there's a couple of ways we can respond to that, right? Like many have, and I've heard many in the past, this isn't the first time that's happened to me. You know, we could say, well, we shouldn't do stuff like that. People are just going to use it wrong. You can respond that way, I guess, if you get it right. But I had to spend some time with the Lord. And I said, God, all I know is you told me to help. You told me to help. And I told her brother there, I said, that's between her and God now. I did what I was supposed to do. You know, ministry gets messy sometimes. It gets tough. Just like families get messy, right? I know I'm probably the only one that this happens to. But you have that cousin or uncle, or I got a list of them, that they just continue to make it hard to love them. And then we read the Bible, and we're supposed to love our enemies. Like, was Jesus joking when he said that? Love your enemies, people that hate you? In Matthew 9, when he looked out at the crowd of people, just go people watch sometimes. Watch a crowd of people. There's some dummies in that group. And Jesus looked out at them and had compassion on them. And he didn't see them as dummies. He saw them as sheep without a shepherd. We need to see people through eternal eyes. We are all created by the same God. No matter what part of town you live in, no matter what part of the state you live in, what part of the country you live in, even LSU fans were created with the image of God.
I don't know about that.
Jake Moore stood up here to pray for our offering.
Go Tigers.
But each person was created as an image bearer of God. And so many times, it's so easy for us to forget that. And we drive by with our, just say it, judgmental looks. And God has said, no. No. Look what he says here. I love this. For it is all for your sake, verse 15, so that his grace extends to more and more people. I needed that grace. I'm glad it extended to me. But as it extends to more and more people, it may increase thanksgiving to the glory of God. And the last one of those things that we need to see through the goggles, eternal goggles, is the world. It's our culture, the world we live in. Once again, Paul is talking specifically about struggles he's facing for following Christ. Imprisonments, beatings, the fact that some of these people in Corinth are not doing as he said, they're breaking his heart. And God offers, and Paul offers these words. It says, though our outer self is wasting away, our inner self is being renewed day by day. Isn't that good to hear? This world is wasting away. We are wasting away. I'm on that other side of 40 now. All you people, when I turn 40, were coming here saying, everybody, them doctors are going. Go to the eye doctor. Got to get glasses. Y'all can just be quiet. You brought it on. Wasting away. We live in a world that's riddled with sin. And sin leads to death. This world is dying. Want to fix global warming? It ain't going to happen. The world's dying. People of God, we should be good stewards of it. Take care of it. God's given it to us. But is some politician going to fix it? Nope. Ain't going to happen. We live in a world that's wasting away. But listen to this, verse 17. For this light, momentary affliction is preparing for us an eternal weight of glory beyond all comparison. And if that don't put a smile on your face when you're reading the Bible, just hear that the weight of glory, an eternal weight of glory, that we're going to experience that. That's going to be on us. We're going to experience the weight of God's glory someday. That we're going to go from a dying, deteriorating world that we live in to one that is always good, always great, not dying. If that doesn't get you happy, if that doesn't get you joyful, if that doesn't get you hopeful, your wood's wet. Something's wrong. It's eternal. I love that phrase. The eternal weight of glory beyond all comparison. You see, when we give our life to Christ, our focus is to go not to just this world anymore. It's to go to eternity. And here's how that changes things. That changes the decisions we make. You know, one of the things that sort of disappoints me is a lot of times I hear people talking when they're kids, when they're coming out of high school. And they'll say, well, I don't know what I want to study. I don't know what I want to do. I'll say, what does God want you to do? You thought about that? Do we even think about that anymore? We talk about jobs. We talk about financial decisions. We talk about family decisions. Do we even include God in those anymore? Or is it all about what I want to do? And Paul's reminding us here that this is all passing away. Look at verse 18. For the things that are seen are transient. The things that we see in this world are just passing through. The things that we grab hold of, that we think give us meaning, give us purpose, give us worth, they're just passing through. If they're not eternal, if they're not God, if they're not the gospel, if they're not people, because people are eternal. Eternal only after this life, Lord. Where's our focus? The things that are just passing through that aren't going to matter, or the things that are unseen, things that are eternal. On your outline, here's the simple, just kind of to remember statement. Those who have the spirit of faith, which once again are believers, are people who have given their life to Christ. The struggles of this world are temporary. Our hope is eternal. Our hope is eternal. You ever, when I was a kid, I was an only child, so my imagination was my only friend. And I think in the passages where Jesus says, come to faith like a child, we use our imagination anymore to think about eternity. To just sit back and think about what eternity will be like. First of all, all it is white clouds and angels singing. There's going to be some of that. I don't know about the cloud part. But I'm thinking there's a lot more to it than that. Come on Sunday nights, as we were just talking about in Revelation. But did we ever think about what eternity is going to be like? I think that's a practice we need to do more. Because I think if we did that, the things of this world, it would be a lot easier to see them as just passing through. What I'm afraid of is eternity is not even in our thought process so many times. It's not even something we consider. Except maybe when we're at a funeral. We're really thinking about what eternity is. The truth of it. Do we think of it like Paul did? To where he's incorporating it into his teachings so many times. And reminding his people as he is talking about the struggles he's facing, the struggles they're facing, is he reminding, are we reminded of the future hope that we have? You would bow your head, close your eyes as we close. First invitation is always this. Do you have a relationship with Christ? Do you have a relationship with Christ? Ask Him to be your Lord. Give Him your life to Him. If you haven't, and He's speaking to you now about that, come to this altar. Come and talk to one of these councils. Come and talk to me. Let's get that right. This morning, as we've talked about the eternal goggles and seeing these different things, the gospel, the people, our world, you need to repent of not seeing it the way you should. And that's some sin that's maybe holding you back. Maybe you have an attitude toward people you shouldn't have. You want God to soften your heart. Maybe you have an understanding of the gospel where you want God to just keep helping you out. Like the football player that wants him to help him win games. Or maybe you've had some losses. You've started questioning God. And you know that that's not part of the gospel. It's a false gospel. There are struggles. There are tough times. There are losses. But God's still God in all of it. Whatever God's speaking to you about, be obedient. Father God, I pray you'd speak to us now. And we'd be obedient to do what you